sometimes, because I look at it as I take full accountability, and so the buck does stop with me, and so I do have a say in everything, or I do have an opinion about everything, because it matters, because I'm the one that has to answer for it, not everybody else, or almost anybody else, even though one might say, well, if it's that program person's job, well, yeah, it is, but still the buck stopped with me, so I need to be aware of what's going on. So my challenge right now is teaching them to communicate better with me.
Okay.
They're off, I'm delegating, and they're off doing their stuff.
Right.
But, there's that whole thing that says trust but verify.
Okay.
You need to have a two-way street of communication coming back so that you can continue your trust level.
Definitely. Okay, so then you would say that your success in your business is necessary through the team? Like, obviously you wouldn't be able to do this alone.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So then what
And we do better when we're operating as a team as to people doing their own thing.
Does everybody know what their roles are within the team, or do they kind of bleed into what you need, you got to get done?
Both. People know what their roles are, but they're not rigid in it.
Okay.
They're all willing to
flexible. And that's a positive thing, you would say.
That's mandatory for what we do.
Okay. Yeah. Definitely. Okay.
And that would be the kind, I don't know if we're getting, I didn't notice in the stuff you sent me that we were going to talk about anything about hiring, but one of the biggest lessons I learned over the recent years is skill versus character. And that leads to what we were just saying, how people being willing to flex and bend and get outside their box to help someone else on the team. And you can hire somebody for a skill set, but you are much better, I've learned, to hire the person for their character and teach the skill set if they don't have it exactly what you want.
Absolutely. And I think that's becoming more of a prevalent thing nowadays, is that all these business students who have a certain skill set that is good for their business, if they can't communicate well or do well with others, honestly, that doesn't mean anything,
See, what's key in business is doing things without being told.
Okay.
If you hire
Taking
somebody,
initiative,
and all they do is do what's put in front of them,
the bottom line.
That doesn't help most, I would say, companies who are usually trying to grow or move forward, because you need people always thinking what's next. At least I think you need people, or I want around me, people thinking what's next, what's next, what's next. For me, for the company or the organization, what's next.
So then you would say a leader is someone who is noticed for having done something like that, while a manager may just stick to what needs to be done in order for the day-to-day to move
A leader is innovative, intuitive, not afraid to throw out ideas, to others.
What types of values would a good leader possess?
Integrity, honesty.
What's your idea of integrity?
Meaning that they would never do anything unethical. They're moral. They are true to their word. You can depend on them.
Reliability.
High values. It matters.
Okay, so then what would you say, you personally, what type of innovation did you maybe use in a non-traditional problem that you had at work?
I'm trying to define what our problems would be, because usually the only problems we have is either a disgruntled volunteer, which is a whole different set of people, or lack of funding, or a rogue board member.
Okay. I think those are all great examples. How would you deal with?
But see, I'm not sure how innovative it is in dealing with those.
Well, if it was a problem, what type of communication skills would you use as a leader to solve it?
Trying to identify them.
Or how did you build morale? Or how did you persuade?
Everything needs to be of a positive nature. Negative stuff never works.
Right, okay.
Also, community works. We do a lot. Community means we heal in community, meaning that people in grief heal better in a community versus a one-on-one, when you're caring for someone who's infirm or sick. The whole fellowship thing like religion has, actually, we refer back to fellowship. After church you used to have coffee and donuts. That's fellowship. People want to belong. People want to feel good by being around each other. And so we sometimes take that same feeling and try to envelop that in the activities we do with our volunteers, or that's why our patient companions are so great at what they do, because they bring that fellowship to people who can't get out of their home and so forth. Even in my board, we create that camaraderie. Why would people want to sit on my board and work for us or donate to us if they don't feel a sense of belonging and so forth? So I guess what I'm leading to answer your question, is that if there's a problem in any one of those areas, we try to listen to what the person's issues might be. Are they solvable? How is there anything we can do in our power to solve them? And sometimes you just can't.
If you don't have the resources.
And you need to it just might not even be in your power.
Okay.
Because if it's a philosophical disagreement,
right.
Then there's nothing you can do to change that. You can honor their position, but then that just means it might not be, in my business, it just might not be a good match, which means that board member might not be a good match for a board member. That volunteer maybe isn't the best volunteer,
Do you make that decision?
Absolutely, we do.
With when it happens though with board members, what's the relationship between a deciding factor? Like, do they have last say? Is there a voting situation? Do you have percentage input?
People do in high-powered paying boards, people with boards that get paid, and so they hire and fire them. I would most likely let somebody just term out. We have term limits for those types of reasons. Okay. So we can solve most anything by that.
Okay. Just wait it out.
We wait it out.
All right. And then
that's only happened once or twice in my 18 years.
So you generally come to some sort of consensus.
Someone will just go away if they're not suitably matched. They'll just say, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, okay.
And we have this thing called bless and release. You let them go.
Bless and release.
You thank them, bless them, and release them.
What types... Are there any what situations would you say that a leader would fail? Or has failed? What would you deem as an example of a time that a leader would fail his or her team, or you felt that?
For most leaders, I don't think most leaders fail their team. I think they may feel that they personally didn't achieve what they wanted to, but probably in the eyes of their team, it's not as bad as they personally feel. Does that make sense?
They think it's worse than everyone else does.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least I know I do. I always take it personally that I failed as a leader if something's not happening, because I either haven't perhaps communicated properly or taught properly, or but I don't really think that means a leader fails. I mean, it depends what your objective is, and that's kind of to
right, depending on the project or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you just fail more at being a leader than just failing.
Does
that make sense?
From the expectations that you have of yourself, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. So then going back though, how would you say that? What type of leader do you appreciate the input of others in order to make you a better leader, or do you think that you more so are teaching others how to take more initiative and be more of the leader that you are?
I love feedback.
Okay.
People aren't always ready to give it, though. Sometimes.
Well, what type of are you a direct communicator? Do you prefer direct communication, asking direct questions, or do you learn from the people around you just by learning what type of person that they are? And do you have to deal with each person on your team in a different way because you know they're a different type of personality?
And we've actually done personality little
assessments or something.
So I think it's really important to understand the personality that you're working with. I'm not completely perfect at it, but if I stop and pay attention, I can figure out how people learn, how people receive information.
Or direction.
I'm pretty much an on-the-table kind of person. I like everything out on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm not afraid to apologize if I've missed the mark on something with them or not approaching them properly. And I do ask for direct feedback.
Mm-hmm.
How would this be better for you? What can I do differently?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
do you have like a set of evaluation type setup, or is it just sort of like I've hit a block, and what sort of fresh ideas can other people bring in to me, or is it sort of like this is what's always worked for me, and this is the way that I always want it to run?
Oh no, I at least in our organization we can't do that. No, I'm not afraid of change, and I'm not afraid to be wrong. And if somebody's got a better way to do stuff, more power to them. I've learned that I prefer others to take the lead from me.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's part of growing leadership too, is giving people the opportunity to be leaders. I think that's what a good leader does.
Successful, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so for the class, what suggestions would you make to college kids in order to become leaders in their chosen field?
I would probably suggest that they find something that they can get passionate about, that they can get behind, that they look outside of themselves, and that they I subscribe to the philosophy to be a servant person, meaning that if you do enough for others, you usually end up getting what you want. And that doesn't mean be a doormat, but if you, but it's like being a team member and growing your team. If you understand how to help others be successful in what they're doing, it usually catapults you. You know, not at the demise of yourself, but if you uplift others, you know, what they say, rising tide raises all ships. It's kind of that philosophy. So that, I think, for college students, is to get out of your own head and stop being a legend in your own mind and realize that you've got things to learn.
Yeah.
And you can't rush experience, unfortunately. I remember when I first went to Pathways, first month, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for this first year to be gone, because I will have had experience with everything that goes on in the organization, and you just can't rush that.
Right.
You have to go through every single phase until you've had at least some tenure to understand what's going on.
Right. Especially within a company aspect, it's good to have experience in. Would you say a good leader needs to know how to do every position that they're directing?
I think they need to have some knowledge of it. I don't think they need to know how to do it precisely. Okay. But I think, and maybe that's being my high control, but I think it's effective to understand and it would show interest if I went to somebody and said, tell me what, in fact, I think I have, tell me what you do here. You know, tell me how you're doing this, or why you're doing this, or what makes you do it that way. And showing interest in the other person's position anyways, I think builds rapport and respect.
Do you think it's a better idea to have a personal relationship with the people that work under you, or do you keep it strictly business?
No, I think for me it's a blend.
Okay.
It's a blend. I think a boss cannot be too close. Uh-huh. I think they need to be personable, and I think they need to be caring, and I think they need to have some level of personal relationship, but I specifically choose not to go have lunch with everybody every day. Mm-hmm. We have a place where everyone, two or three of them go down to the lunchroom and they have lunch every day together. Mm-hmm. I don't. Part of me wants them to have time outside of the boss to be able to talk about whatever they want to talk about. I never want to be a hindrance to them being open about anything. Mm-hmm. And I just kind of think they need some personal time too. But I do join them once in a while. Right. But I don't. As a boss, I don't normally do stuff outside of work with them. I did before I was a boss with people, but I don't. I think there needs to be a little bit of distance. Okay. For respect, I think. Yeah. Because then sometimes the lines get blurred. Right. Right. But I mean, would you say that helps with the positivity that they bring to work when they feel that you know what's going on in their lives and that you have some sort of caring aspect, that they're more inclined to do what they need to do for you? It's like
reward
think
cost and
people
reward
just-
situation, or
I think people just appreciate